All right, welcome everyone. Today we're gonna unravel a really fascinating transformation. I mean, think about it. Your everyday pizza, humble street food. Now, picture that same pizza, but completely reimagined, right? Served up to Hollywood's biggest stars, becoming this symbol of luxury. How does that even happen? We're diving deep into the story of Wolfgang Puck, a true culinary visionary, someone who went from, pretty poor Austrian kitchens to building this $120 million empire. He basically redefined fine dining and maybe even luxury itself. So our mission here in this deep dive is to really dig into all the sources we've gathered, articles, research our notes, and pull out the most important insights. We want to get inside the mindset, the bold strategies, the innovation, and maybe even some of the surprising habits that let Puck completely rewrite the rule book for cooking and for business. So yeah, let's unpack this journey.
It really is quite an origin story, especially where he started. Wolfgang Puck, born in 1949, Sungfeit under Glan, small town Austria. Early life. Pretty modest. Money was tight. But his mother, she was a pastry chef, and watching her, he learned something profound, that food wasn't just, fuel, it was a craft, an art, something that could genuinely change lives.
And he jumped right in, didn't he? Started his apprenticeship at just 14. I mean, that's incredibly young, incredibly intense. How do you think that early experience, especially coming from modest means, had that really shape his view on money long term? Was it just about scarcity? Or something else?
That's a really key point. I think that early start, it gave him this mindset where money wasn't the end goal, not the destination. It was more like a byproduct.
Yeah.
Something that came from passion, from excellence, from delivering something really special, not just chasing the dollars directly.
Right. That makes sense. And that sort of sets the stage for his time in Europe then. Moving to France, working in these legendary Michelin-starred places, Lousteau de Beaumanière, Maxime's, the absolute top tier. What did he pick up there? What were the big takeaways that kind of planted the seeds for his later ideas?
Well, he saw this huge contrast. Fine dining there. It wasn't just about the food itself. It was the whole package, the experience, the theater of it all, the storytelling. And crucially, he saw people were willing to pay a lot for that unforgettable feeling. That definitely planted a seed, this idea of creating unmatched value through experience.
And he carried that vision and that resilience, right, to America. Arrives in 73, is 24, has next to nothing. But instead of seeing that lack of resources as a brick wall, he saw it as, a challenge, an opportunity.
Exactly. That resourcefulness, it seems like it was baked in from his childhood. And it makes you think, how did that translate when he faced his first big test? Like turning around Maison in L.A. That place was struggling.
Yeah, Maison was exactly where he started, connecting creativity with capital. He took this restaurant that was frankly failing and turned it into the place for Hollywood royalty. He wasn't just hidden in the kitchen either. He was out front, watching, observing, learning what these high-profile people actually wanted, and then figuring out how to blow past their expectations every time.
And that experience, understanding that clientele, that directly paved the way for Spago, right? The big revolution. When he opened Spago in 82 on Sunset Strip, it wasn't just another restaurant. He deliberately broke all the rules. The open kitchen, for starters, that was huge. Letting guests see the artistry, making the kitchen part of the dining room, part of the show.
Totally. And the food itself, fusing those classic European techniques he'd mastered with all this amazing fresh California stuff. He basically invented California cuisine, didn't he? But the real kicker, the thing everyone still talks about, that smoked salmon and caviar pizza. I mean, can you imagine the nerve? Taking pizza, this super humble street food, and making it this luxury item that, frankly, only the Hollywood elite could really afford back then.
You see, this wasn't just about slapping expensive things on dough. This was a masterclass in changing perception. Puck's insight wasn't just adding caviar. It was proving that audacity, that great storytelling, that innovation that could create value far beyond the cost of ingredients. He taught us that luxury isn't always about the price tag. It's often about the unique experience you're crafting, the story.
And boy, did it work. I mean, Joan Collins, Billy Wilder, they were all regulars. Spago became the absolute center of Hollywood dining. It was a cultural moment, not just a restaurant, it was the place, a status symbol.
Which leads us right into his, almost revolutionary financial thinking. What really drove his success beyond just Spago, he genuinely seems to see money not as the goal, but as fuel for creativity, for delivering these amazing experiences. He actually said, success is not about how much money you make, but how much you love what you do and how many people you can make happy. And that wasn't just talk. It was like his operating system. Passion drove the innovation in the kitchen and in business, and that generated the profit. which then funded more creativity, a cycle.
Yeah, and what's really striking about Puck is his vision went way beyond just the kitchen. So many brilliant chefs, they get tied to one place. But he built a brand, something designed to last longer than any single restaurant. He started pretty early, too, didn't he? His first cookbook was, 1983, taking his ideas right into people's homes.
Exactly. And he kept building. Launched Wolfgang Puck Catering in the 90s, and then the big one, becoming the official caterer for the Oscars Governor's Ball for over 30 years straight. Think about that association. His name, constantly linked with Hollywood glamour year after year, just brilliant brand building, sustained.
Absolutely. Then he jumps into Asian fusion with Chinois and Maine way back in the mid-'80s before it was really a thing. And later, CUT, the modern steakhouse concept, that earned Michelin stars, right? Beverly Hills, Singapore. He was always diversifying, looking for new angles, not just repeating himself. He really understood different markets.
And he was so far ahead on trends. Things like organic produce, humane meat, sustainable seafood. He was championing those decades ago. Decades before they became industry buzzwords. That foresight kept him ahead, positioned him as a leader, not a follower.
He also got the power of media way before most chefs did. He was one of the first celebrity chefs, really. Regular spots on TV, Morning America, talk shows. It made him a personality, amplified his reach way beyond the restaurants, and then, of course, the retail stuff. Cookware, soups, frozen pizzas, ready meals, huge revenue, massive brand recognition.
Yeah, the scale today is just incredible. By 2025, we're talking over 21 fine dining spots globally, the restaurant group pulling in over $450 million a year, and his personal net worth around $120 million. That kind of lasting success doesn't just happen.
No way. And you can trace that success right back to his habits, his way of working. Even now, over 75, he's often right there in the restaurants, hands-on, tasting, tweaking, talking to staff, talking to guests. That level of direct involvement, for someone at his level, it's pretty rare.
It really shows his relentless curiosity, doesn't it? He just never stops learning, absorbing, experimenting. He didn't just bring French cooking here. He kept blending it with California ingredients, creating California cuisine, then fusion lux. Every day seems like a chance to find something new.
And I love his view of work. Those long hours in the kitchen, he calls it his playground. Not a chore, not a burden. That genuine passion, it creates this energy, right? It has to inspire the staff, build that culture of excellence, of always pushing.
And he's also surprisingly open about failure. He doesn't seem to fear mistakes. He actually studies them. He talks openly about the problems at Ma Maison, the internal conflicts, and how he used those lessons to make Spago stronger, more resilient. He'd adapt, or even close places that weren't working. No hesitation. Saw it as learning, not failing personally.
Right. And he treats his dishes like they're alive, constantly evolving, revises menus all the time with the seasons, trends, what customers like. Even that famous smoked salmon pizza, apparently it's been tweaked over the years, keeping it fresh, relevant.
And what's really cool is how he leads with empathy. He often talks about his own tough times as a young apprentice. So he fosters this culture of respect, makes sure his teams have chances to grow. It's no wonder so many top chefs today say he mentored them.
He's also quick on his feet with technology. During COVID, when fine dining got hit so hard, Puck didn't just hang on. He pivoted instantly. High-end takeout, virtual cooking classes, those home meal kits. It showed incredible adaptability, changing his whole model overnight to stay connected.
Yeah, totally. And even his personal habits seem to reflect that core philosophy. Eat simply, stays fit, known for just having this positive energy, making people feel valued, whether you're a superstar or washing dishes.
It all seems to feed into his basic life philosophy. Just keep evolving. He said success is constantly trying to improve. It's not just a saying for him, it's ingrained, a refusal to get comfortable, always asking what's next, what could be better.
Yeah, that resilience clearly came from his early life. Challenges weren't roadblocks, they were opportunities. Stepping into the unknown, leaving Austria, coming to the U.S. with nothing, that wasn't something to fear. It was how he grew.
And his decisions, they seem like this mix of gut feeling and sharp observation. That pizza, for example. People thought it was just a stunt. But he knew luxury could be about surprise, about story, not just expensive stuff. That intuition, backed by watching his customers, turned a risky idea into an icon.
He was also way ahead on ethics, sourcing humane meat, organic produce, long before it was trendy. And then in 2007, he proactively banned foie gras and veal. That wasn't reacting to pressure. It felt like it came from his own values,
Mm.
his vision for responsible dining.
And he really treasures relationships, doesn't he? With investors, partners, the young chefs he mentors, his loyal customers, treating his teams like partners that built this huge network of support over decades.
Yeah, a perfect example of that calculated risk-taking was moving Spago, leaving that iconic Sunset Strip spot for Beverly Hills in '97. Huge risk. The original place was legendary, but he knew the brand needed refreshing, and it worked. It totally revitalized Spago. Bold move.
And he wasn't afraid to step right out of the kitchen into TV, into retail. He got that telling your story through media was crucial in the modern world, not just for him, but to elevate the whole profession of being a chef. His whole philosophy seems to be this balance: passion, ethics, vision, always thinking long-term impact.
So if you zoom out, his rise wasn't just about brilliant cooking. It was about understanding power, social influence. He saw it early at Ma Maison. Those Hollywood stars weren't just customers, they were amplifiers. Organic marketing, basically.
And he deliberately built Spago's environment around that, right?
Yeah.
Made it a place where stars felt comfortable but also seen. Dining there became a social event, a status thing. It wasn't just dinner, it was about being part of the scene.
Hmm. And that Oscars governor's ball gig, 30 plus years, that just cemented his name globally. You can't buy that kind of consistent association with glamour.
He really did change what it means to be a chef. His TV appearances made him relatable, a trusted name in millions of homes. He basically paved the way for the whole celebrity chef culture we see today. He didn't just cook food, he kind of cooked up a new career path.
And he didn't just follow trends, he often set them. That early Asian fusion, the ethical sourcing commitment in '07, those were big moves that pushed the whole industry forward.
That mentorship network is also key. He didn't just hire chefs, he trained them, taught them innovation, business thinking. So many went on to become huge names themselves. It multiplies his influence.
And he mastered that tricky balance, the brand duality, putting his name on accessible stuff like cookware or airport food while keeping that ultra-premium fine dining image intact, being both accessible and aspirational. That's really hard to pull off.
Yeah, it is. And underlying it all is, I think, his authenticity. Even with all the fame, he seems approachable. People trust the name not just for the food, but for the quality, the passion, the innovation he represents. That builds a brand loyalty that marketing alone just can't buy.
But yeah, like any big story, it wasn't always smooth sailing. There were crises, setbacks. But he openly talks about using the conflicts at Ma Maison as lessons for Spago. He learned from the rough patches.
That Spago move to Beverly Hills in '97, that's such a great example of his crisis strategy. It was a huge gamble, leaving the iconic spot. But it showed he valued innovation over just clinging to history. He revitalized the brand right when others might have played it safe.
Or think about the 2008 financial crisis. He didn't just cut back. He leaned on his diversified businesses, the catering, the packaged goods, the international spots to keep things stable while fine dining took a hit. That diversification built resilience.
And COVID, obviously, the biggest test for restaurants maybe ever, but Puck adapted so fast. High-end takeout, virtual classes, meal kits. He found ways to keep the brand experience alive, even strengthening his digital side when the doors were closed.
And he faces criticism head-on, too. Like with the ethical sourcing issues raised by activists, he didn't just make changes, he led the way. Banning foie gras in 2007, committing publicly to humane practices. It positioned him as a leader in responsible dining, not just someone reacting.
It feels like all his decisions come back to that long-term view. Protect the brand, innovate the experience, always adapt. He built resilience by refusing to get stuck in the past or panic when things got tough.
Right. He stays involved, leads the innovation, even when times are hardest. Reinforcing those core values, quality, creativity, customer connection. That's what makes the brand last.
So wrapping this up, Wolfgang Puck's story really is this incredible blueprint, isn't it? For turning creativity into lasting influence, into a huge empire. It shows it's not about where you start, but how you think, how you act, how gravely you adapt.
Yeah, one of the biggest takeaways has to be that power of reinvention. Taking something ordinary like pizza and through sheer audacity and vision, making it redefine luxury. He showed everyone that exclusivity isn't just about price, it's about creating experiences people can't get anywhere else. The story matters.
And his resilience, definitely. Facing down crises that could have sunk him, but instead using them as fuel. Setbacks weren't failures, they were just pivots to something new, something better. His ethics, his authenticity, They didn't just build a brand, they built this respected legacy.
Exactly. He didn't just cook meals. He crafted experiences, built a global brand, and fundamentally shaped an entire industry. His name is just shorthand for luxury, innovation, inspiration.
So the question for you listening is, what does this journey mean for you? Puck showed us that greatness often isn't about following the rules. It's about having the vision, the courage to rewrite them. How does that apply to what you do? What's your version of turning the ordinary into something extraordinary? And maybe ask yourself, is luxury really about the price? Or is it, like Puck demonstrated, more about the story, the unique experience you create? Something to think about.